Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have Heroes of the Sky. I have to look at the reference here just so it's a long title. Heroes of the Sky, the Mighty 8th Air Force. This is another documentary, yes, it's from National Geographic, and it is an hour and 28 minutes long. It's from 2020, and it's pretty new and has, modern production sensibilities and how it lays things out. It's a little bit more detailed. Some of the, I think, black and white footage that is used from World War II has been colorized at different points without being garishly so. This is actually a pretty interesting, to me, documentary. I'm getting to the age, I guess, where everybody goes like, "Oh, remember when they had the Great War?" And you got to watch documentaries. And somehow you get it. If it shows up on the television, if this is, I don't think this, we don't have accidental television watching these days. It's always, oh, we're going to choose to stream this, or maybe it's a YouTube thing, I don't know. But, back in the old days when we just had the TV on, we'd flip through the channels, you'd find something that would come on and be like, oh, I'll keep this on, and it just sucks you in. Yeah. Kind of like going down a rabbit hole on YouTube, but even less voluntary. And World War II documentaries, especially like on the History Channel and, of course, National Geographic, always tend to suck in guys about my age to go, what was it like way back when we hated Nazis and fought against them as Americans? That kind of thing, where Nazis weren't cool in America. We want to think about those days, and we beat their asses. So yeah, when you have people trying to take over the world with tyranny, fascism, all that kind of stuff, they tend to be the bad guys. 2023. Anyway, that was almost 80 years ago. In fact, much of this footage it takes us through the early days of the war once America joined into things. We took a little while to get in there. Took the Japanese bombing Pearl Harbor for us to really start putting an effort in there in the European realm, and of course in Southeast Asia and Japan and everything else. 2 days ago, we watched a series about ultimate survival of World War II, about the various fronts of the war, and a guy trying to recreate the way people were facing down all sorts of challenges to survive in various types of wilderness. And this is more of a historic retelling of how essentially the U.S. Air Force was born, which was established in 1947 after the war, but we had plenty of pre-Air Force official, unofficial. I shouldn't say unofficial. Obviously, they're official, but it's the official Air Force didn't come around until after the war was over. But there were very different Air Forces scattered throughout the world, protecting the U.S., our borders and everything else, our coasts, and in case of invasion, sent some down into Asia, and we sent many over into Europe. The 8th Air Force Battalion, what do I call it? Anyway, the 8th were the ones who were based in England, and they were honestly started by one guy and maybe 6 others he brought along, and they had no planes. And it was so small. By the end of the war, we had thousands of planes and more than 200,000 soldiers and airmen in that area. And to state that the importance of the 8th Air Force, I just want to call them the 8th Air, the 8th, their bombers, the B-17s, everything else, and the P-51 Mustangs, and all those different types of planes, to state that they were important to us winning the war is not strong enough. It is a humongous understatement, and it wasn't without controversy or struggle. Americans were a little bit weird about bombing an enemy in civilian locations. Like just broadly bombing things was more of a thing the Europeans enjoyed. The English enjoyed that. When we decided to bomb people, we're like, you know what? Let's go for military targets. At least that's how they tell the tale. Again, I don't know. Maybe not. At some point, there was some pushback, as you'll see in this, where a certain commander was like, "Oh, maybe we shouldn't just lay waste to Berlin. It's a big public center, just civilians. It's not a strategic military target. Yeah, sure, it might make them sad and kill a lot of them because, you're all in a war to murder murder 6 million Jews, amongst other types of people who are not considered perfect or great. Sure, you were involved in that, but we tend to not to want to attack people who aren't actively shooting guns at us. And he was overridden, and when they did that, they attacked Berlin full force, and he was absolved for those actions. He was not to blame. Thousands upon thousands were killed. Many were injured, of course. And there is photos and video that show the devastation. This story, this documentary, takes you all the way through those humble beginnings. I'm trying to think of the name of the guy who was in charge. Phil Tibbets. What's the guy? But this is narrated by Bruce Kennedy. But people who are World War II heads, people who really know this stuff, they'll recognize Phil Tibbets. They'll recognize Ira Aker, Curtis LeMay, Frank Labatier. Yeah, you'll know all of those names. I'm not so familiar with them, but it was interesting to learn about all the struggles they had, just basically when they would take bombers into Germany just to sort of take out major targets, it was pretty much understood that you weren't coming back when you got on one of those planes. You had somewhat of a better meal than usual before those flights took off, but there was a chance that was your last meal, good or bad. Only once they got more of protection from faster planes that could fly further, like the P-51 Mustangs, did they increase their chances of surviving. But that wasn't without loss, considerable loss by the thousands, hundreds of planes going down in just one campaign. And some of them were just relentless over and over and over again. I want to make a mention of Captain Preddy. He looks like Douglas Fairbanks. He was a ace pilot, hotshot. He just had that thing where he had a record of shooting down 6 planes in 5 minutes. That's just bing, 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 just knocking them all down. He is considered one of the greatest pilots of all time, and eventually he died while in battle after coming back, after finishing his tours of duty and then going back to the front lines and flying again. And unfortunately, he was taken down by U.S. fire. Accidentally. And you look at him and you're like, man, that is just it's like a handsome dude who is he's gotta get it. He's like an ace pilot. He's cool. He's Howard Stark. He's not even Tony Stark. He's Howard Stark. And he died at 25. He looks twice his age. Well, not twice, but he looks old. People look older back then. He died at 25. What adds a level of just it's a little different how they do this. They do take actual quotes, dialogue, whether it's from letters or speeches or something else from each of the people that they feature in this. Tibbetts, I can't say his name properly. Come on, let me say his name. Labattire, yeah. Also, Preddy, all of them, sometimes there's footage, actual real footage from back in the day, but there's also times when they've spoken, written, or whatever else about these moments in history, and they just have an actor speak their lines, those words for them. So it's because you get this idea like, how? That's really clear dialogue, and it doesn't sound like that old-timey 1940s type of talking. It doesn't sound like that. So I'm like, what are they? Okay, it's not the actual dialogue. Got it. Okay, well, it is the actual dialogue. It's not the actual voice. These days, though, who knows? We're gonna very soon. They'll sample the voice of these people back in the 40s and World War II era, and then they'll match that with AI to make their own voices speak the words they spoke or wrote. It's a whole thing. Yeah, scary stuff. So yeah, this is something, if you're a World War II nut and you love this little piece of history, this is the origins of what would become the Air Force and U.S. Air Force. And the amazing, astounding things they did, these young kids, and just putting themselves in the shredder with the Luftwaffe, the very much more experienced German Air Force. It's astounding. Their contribution to D-Day, which 2 days ago, should have said something. But yeah, D-Day, June 6th, beaches of Normandy, very important in clearing that path to get all those men on the beaches of Normandy and the others further into land so they could take back France. It was important. And this takes you all the way to the Manhattan Project and the bombers, the Enola Gay, the bombers that were instrumental in fully ending the war, even after Germany surrendered. The Japanese were not stopping. And yeah, that's one of the things that's going to be examined in the upcoming Oppenheimer film by, what's his name? I've already forgot his name. I'm tired. But yeah, the Oppenheimer film coming out in July, not a Disney thing. Christopher Nolan, the guy that did Batman and Interstellar and those kind of things. He's done a 3-hour movie about the Manhattan Project and the creation of the bombs that we eventually used to end the war, World War II. And I imagine some of these names might come into play. Maybe. I looked at the credits, and there's a lot of actors' names in there, but they're not associated with characters. So, but Preddy was not Preddy. What's his name? Paul Tibbetts. He was very much still involved in the execution of that mission that took the bombs to be dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So yeah, this sort of bridges all of that from D-Day to Nagasaki. So yeah, it's I think it's worth checking out if you're into this kind of stuff. But if you have a documentary about World War II and you don't give a crap about that, well, yeah, of course, it's just one more thing. But that you're not going to watch. But hey, I say give it a shot. History can't hurt you to learn it and understand it. So we don't do it again. like we are now. Let's pick tomorrow's episode.
259.
259. Why aren't you louder? 259. Come on. Come on. Oh my gosh. We got a short, finally. After so many movies and documentaries and everything else, I got a short. It makes it an easy day for me. This one, I think it might be a classic. You'll have to tell me. I'll tell you tomorrow when we watch Lonesome Ghosts. Yeah. Lonesome Ghosts, featuring Mickey Mouse. So yeah. Lonesome Ghosts is what we're watching tomorrow on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that. Bye.